Percy with an early run, he's onside this time! It's 1-1! Andre Schürrle, it's 7! It's Mario Götze! What a goal! What a goal to win a World Cup!
Hello and welcome to the Beermat World Cup podcast. The World Cup final is upon us, and this is your preview. 32 teams came to this tournament, 30 are now by the wayside. We are left with 2, and we're going to give you 10 minutes of the most satisfying action you could possibly want until the next time you listen to 10 minutes of the Beermat, any football podcast, and you will also have 10 minutes of satisfying action there. There was a lot of potential for a double entendre there, but I thought I'd just stay on the safe side. Basically, if you're with the Beermat for any of your footballing needs, you are good. Going into this tournament, everyone turned around and went, yep, France and Croatia, they'll be your final 2. There's no doubt about that. Oh no, wait. This tournament has been anything but predictable. It has been fantastic in terms of drama, action, suspense, Iranian players doing somersaults for foul throws, Belgian players crashing into posts. We've had it all. The one thing we didn't have is an established footballing order, except we're here with France in the final. Interesting. Former World Cup winners France, and it feels a little almost surprising. I'll get to them in a second, but I think the dynamic between the two sides is interesting in a sense of you've got a big nation in France and a relatively small nation in Croatia. Population size this is. And this all seems to be centred around a sense of injustice in Croatia, like no one's giving them any credit, and they're going to wake up today and try and scramble to find the newspapers to hoping that the English media will give them reasons to want to win a World Cup final, versus a France side who, is this a little too soon, maybe? I don't know. It feels like the roles are slightly skewed in the sense that the side that you would expect to win aren't the side that has the golden generation and have youth completely dotted throughout their side. And the side that has the players that everyone knew would come to the fore are the underdogs. I like the way this has panned out and it bodes well. And I'm just going to look at a couple of the areas, basically just repeating a lot of what you've already heard and will hear, but with more terrible puns and potentially awful jokes. So let's dive in. First and foremost, you can't look any further than Mbappe. Since that devastating period against Argentina, this has been sort of written as his tournament. Almost in the same sense that like when the guy writes in the name on the trophy before the game's even finished, we've christened Mbappe, us, the football watching public, not the Beermat. This is his time announcing himself to the world, so to speak. And whether he wins it or not, it will be a point in history for everyone knows who he is, rather than just those who watch football week in and week out. The casual fan who only sort of tunes in every 4 years or every 2 years when international football takes a grip of everyone in the summer, they now know who Mbappe is. And the interesting thing about that for this game is that you look at it from a tactical point of view and you think how Croatia dealt in the first half specifically, less so in the second where they actually got to grips with it, with Sterling's pace. It's mouth-watering from a French perspective and how he might be able to get in behind. And the interesting thing for me is that it's not a direct comparison because Mbappe doesn't play as centrally as Sterling. So do you stick him on Lovren? Do you stick him further up in the middle? Or do you... I do think they're going to keep playing him out wide and he's going to come inside. And I think that may create a little bit more doubt in the minds of both the centre-halves and the wing-backs as to whether... and they're going to have to be absolutely on it. And obviously the comments made by Lovren in midweek, from a personal perspective, I'm all for it. I love it. I've been waiting all tournament for Lovren to put his stamp down on this. And his stamp is he's either going to do something really stupid, especially following these comments. Pride comes before a fall and all that. But I've got a funny feeling that like this whole tournament's been set up just as a cruel joke on football as a whole, that Dejan Lovren is the one that wins it for Croatia. A bullet header. Dortmund 4-3 all over again. In fact, if this was 4-3 Croatia, then we might as well just stop playing football right now because this would be the greatest World Cup. This would be it. This would be the pinnacle. Whether his comments come back to haunt him or not, some people underrate him and because of that some people overrate him. I honestly don't know where to place him in that, because I watch him week in and week out, and for every really good performance I see, there's that performance at Wembley where Harry Kane turned him inside and out. And regardless of what you say has happened to Harry Kane in the last sort of 2 weeks or so since the group stage finished, since he stopped playing poor teams, Lovren did actually marshal him quite well. The Croatia defence as a whole marshalled England quite well for long periods of time. They will be faced with a much bigger threat today, and not just in Mbappe. I wonder whether he's going to start genuinely, and I kind of would, because again, football is filled with these little inside stories. Giroud coming off the semi-final in which he wasn't great, had a couple of chances, still think he hasn't had a shot on target, and really rather cruelly, I saw a video yesterday of him being the only member of the French squad to offer autographs outside the hotel, I think, and no one wanted his autograph. And for that alone, I think he deserves not only a starting place, I think he gets a goal. He's not a terrible striker. He's useful. He's a 7 out of 10. And with the players around him, the service will be there. I just think that, like, the confidence might be at maybe even an all-time low. I don't know. If he comes off the bench, though, he's really good off the bench, generally speaking. But certainly for Arsenal. So he'll probably end up giving away a penalty and missing an open goal. Speaking of strikers, actually, if he wants inspiration, Giroud can actually look at the other side of the pitch at Mandzukic, who I don't think has had great service. I don't think has been fantastic throughout this tournament. Certainly nowhere near as good as he's been in previous tournaments. And yeah, he's the one that came up with the winner. Right place, right time, against England in the semi-final. Bang, there you go. 2-1. And that's the game. And if nothing else, it's reminded him what he's capable of. And maybe his teammates as well, because that's why they weren't like giving him the ball as often. It's like, now they'll be like, oh yeah, Mandzukic can still finish. No doubt. And obviously, if Mandzukic can turn up, and Giroud can turn up, and Lovren can turn up, this is either going to be like 5-5 or 0-0. Jeez. And one of the big factors of whether there's going to be any goals in this game is going to be that midfield. It's a huge battle to be won, and a huge contrast in styles for Pogba, Kante and Matuidi, Modric, Rakitic, Subasic. All 6 of them really good on the ball. All 6 of them fantastic passers. Modric, I think, dictates the tempo a little better than any of them. Pogba probably a little more good in both directions than any of them. I wonder whether Croatia will be able to impose themselves on France without doing loads as they have been able to do up until this point. I actually didn't mind England's tactics to try and get in behind in the semi-final, but having read things and looked back at it since, it felt like it was giving the ball away needlessly, so I'm wrong on that. I don't think France will give the ball away that much. I don't think France will concede space as much as Denmark did. And so, ironically enough, out of all the games Croatia have played, I think the one that they will sort of take heart from is the Russia game, because you got that kind of crowd. The funny thing about this is that in a weird kind of way, even though France are the favourites, I actually think the baton has almost passed in a way, in that so many more people are looking at what Croatia are doing now than when they were playing Russia. No one was looking at Croatia. They were allowed to sort of go unnoticed because of the fact that they were playing the host nation. But the way that game went on, and Croatia having to come back from 1-0 down, they've come back all tournament, but if you look at the first goal that Russia scored, that wonder goal that was scored from outside the box, then you think to yourself, oh, is this for us? Croatia have had many times during this tournament where they have to ask themselves questions, and they've got back into it every single time the same way. The only thing I would say is that I think the questions for France, they may be the same, but the answers are going to be harder to come by because the quality of the French side is higher than anything they faced so far. It's hard to believe that France will come this far and not necessarily put it on the main stage. There's no track record of France getting to a final against a side that they know is dangerous and not performing. I mean, you don't have to go back 2 years to find that. Oh, wait, Euro 2016 when they played Portugal. Yeah. I don't think that's going to be the case today. I think it's going to be a fascinating game. I think we'll know whether it's going to be as open as I think it's going to be within the first 5 or 10. I think it's going to be something like 3-2. If I'm pushed, I would say France. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if Croatia tried to just put a blanket over the midfield and quash any notion of this game becoming open from both ends. And interesting enough, another point to be made here is that in these games where it has been tight, France haven't looked amazing when they're level against Australia, against Denmark, although you can't really call it that because that was sort of a playing for nothing game. And at 0-0 against Belgium, there were moments. So if Croatia can keep it tight, then maybe. And also as well, one of the ways they can keep it tight is with Subasic, who is probably the best goal in this tournament, actually. A lot of people have looked back at, I've seen it back myself, the Harry Kane off the post chance and realised it's actually a great save. Keeper comes out of nowhere, sliding in with his legs. And Lloris, who, well known, high profile, I think he's not as great as he has been. I think he's on the decline. It's not a huge decline. It's not like I'm writing him off completely. I just think of the two, one's on the up, one's on the down. Who knows, it could play into that. I very much thought that the Belgium and France game was going to play into whoever blinks first, whoever makes the first mistake. And it could come down to that again today. Hopefully, though, we see a send-off for this game befitting the tournament, which has been absolutely incredible and easily the best in my lifetime. And it's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to, there will be more from us, but it's been an absolute pleasure being able to sit down and record all these podcasts for you. We said we'd get to you every single day. We have done that. We have achieved our goal. Now all that's left to do is sit back, relax, and enjoy the World Cup final. Hope you enjoy it as well. We will see you after the game. Goodbye for now.